Let's start with our top story. United States Ambassador to South Africa Reuben Brigety says the government of America has expressed concern on South Africa's non-aligned policy in the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia invaded Ukraine in February last year and has faced fierce resistance from the Ukrainian military and population. South Africa has sent a high-level delegation to the U.S. to discuss South Africa's position. Brigety says the U.S. respects South Africa's foreign policy, but says in practice South Africa is not neutral in this war. He says the naval exercise between South Africa, Russia and China also raised questions as it was done during the anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Let's now speak to SABC News International Editor, Sophie Mokoena, who joins us live now. Sophie, thank you so much for your time. Listening to President Cyril Ramaphosa in Parliament this afternoon, he says that the matter is being looked into. These are very serious accusations. What else do we know?
We know that these allegations are based on the fact that the ANC resolution that was adopted by Congress last year, according to America, is too hostile to the U.S. When they talk about building a better world, the ANC resolutions say that the United States of America is bullying the world because of the Woolworths doctrine, and that doctrine came after the Second World War, where particularly at the collapse of the Soviet Union, where the United States declared that it is the only superpower and therefore interests of America must be protected in all costs. And the ANC resolution goes further to say that that is why the United States of America has identified China and Russia, because both countries are challenging the status of the United States of America as the superpower. And therefore, that resolution, the U.S. took a dim view of that resolution. And now, again, looking at how South Africa has behaved in relation to the war in Ukraine, where South Africa has chosen a non-aligned position, pushing for negotiations. The United States of America is very, very aggrieved because South Africa is a powerful force on the continent. When I spoke to the president of Finland, when he was in the country, pointed out that whether people like it or not, South Africa is a very influential country on the continent and at the global stage. And therefore, whatever South Africa says, it is important to unpack and to ensure that many countries are aligned to the South African position. Also based on South Africa's history in relation to struggles and credibility. And therefore, they want to see South Africa condemning Russia in terms of what they say is the Russia's aggression towards Ukraine and the invasion.
And, I'd like to bring the viewers, before we get to the second question, what some of, the responses have been on social media from Vincent Mokoena as well as Clayton Munyela, who are tweeting about this particular issue. So I don't know if we do have those tweets, if we can put them up, please, so that we can be able to get that. Vincent saying the presidency has noted the reported remarks attributed to the U.S. ambassador and will respond in due course. And, of course, this was the same thing that the presidency also talking about on social media, in Parliament as well. So quite a lot, of course, a lot of people looking to see this one. Clayton saying he's just landed in Johannesburg. I see everyone is expecting me to weigh in on what the U.S. ambassador said. One, there's been discussions between us and our USA colleagues on the subject, and an approach was agreed to. Megaphone diplomacy was not part of that. Two, the presidency will announce a comprehensive response by the South African government. Three, the presidency and Department of Defense are handling this particular file. Now, Sophie, how then do they begin to respond, especially when you look at the fact that, some of the opposition parties have now started even taking on this matter, Action SA, saying that they're going to be writing, and the DA asking the president about this in Parliament?
Well, the issue here that has actually prompted many parties to respond is the fact that it is said that the ambassador indicated that the vessel that docked at Simonstown last year, you know, that whole story of the Russia vessel, it had arms, and they picked up arms and ammunition from South Africa at the time where Russia is engaged in a war with Ukraine, and therefore indirectly saying South Africa is supplying Russia with arms, and those arms might end up in Ukraine. And therefore, they are responding to this. But when you look at a question that was asked by the opposition, the official opposition, the DA, on this issue, the defense minister pointed out that the Arms Commission, you know, it is a commission that deals with sales of arms by South African institutions such as your Dinel and Armsco, don't have any information of South Africa trading with Russia in relation to arms, or any sale recently that went to Russia. But we don't know. And as you can hear, Sophie Mokoena is saying the president and the Minister of Defense is looking at this matter. I think they are going to request that file from the Arms Commission to check whether any of these parastatals or these companies, Armsco, Dinel, did sell arms to Russia. I think this matter is far from over, but the reality is I got this information, or the American diplomat expressed this issue to me last year, but they were saying at that time they suspect that that vessel was here to pick up arms. It was not a concluded issue. And now today, clearly the ambassador is saying, based on Washington and the officials in Washington or in the United States of America, clearly with their intelligence, they believe that indeed there were arms in that vessel. But last year, what I knew was that there was a suspicion. The question was whether it's true or false. So we'll hear when the president is responding extensively. But this thing has affected the trade relations as well. You know that South Africa does benefit from the AGOA agreement. And South Africa will be hosting AGOA conference in August. And South Africa would want this agreement to be extended or renewed. Now, people are worried. And when they asked the ambassador today, he was non-committal. He said it is up to the Congress. And you know what is happening within the U.S. Congress. You have the Republicans there who are also pushing their own interests ahead of the presidential elections. So we don't know what's going to happen to South Africa in relation to being benefiting from AGOA. And the three envoys that were sent to Washington, led by the former minister, Sophie Mokoena, Dr. Sophie Mokoena, Bejana, the ANC member who is now the international relations advisor to the president, and the Deputy Minister Waters, who went there. They were going to talk about this issue and this frosty relation that we see between South Africa and the U.S. at a time where we have information that Joe Biden wants to visit the Sub-Sahara. And when you come to the Sub-Sahara being such a powerful leader of a powerful nation, you cannot ignore South Africa. So we don't know what's likely to happen. Maybe he might go to Kenya, to Ghana, and let's see, because the vice president didn't come to South Africa now recently.
It's going to be interesting what happens from this one, and what are some of the diplomatic steps that can be taken here, and how does government begin to respond to this. But let me thank you for your time also, if we do appreciate it, and let's see then in the coming days what happens with this one. That's our new SABC News International Editor, Sophie Mokoena, of course, talking about this very big issue. You can, of course, rest assured that in the coming days, this is going to be one of the most talked about issues in our country.